Well, there doesn't seem to be any doubt remaining about the Golden State Warriors and how they play at home. They're pretty incredible at Chase Center, as evident by the Warriors thumping the LA Clippers 124-107 at Chase Center. But the road woes remain. Jannelle Moore, an analyst with the San Jose Mercury News, analyzing the Golden State Warriors, is going to join me next to talk about why they're so bad on the road, what to do regarding this weird two timeline system that the Warriors have inflicted on themselves. This was supposed to be a live show, by the way, immediately following the Warriors Clippers game. But because of this platform that we use here at Locked On, which is glitchy, had issues tonight. So I had to use Zoom, but at least the quality is good. So Jannelle Moore joins me next. We're going to break down the Warriors, maybe even talk about James Wiseman and whether or not it's time to trade him. Yeah, I think it is. We'll break all that down next. This is Locked On Warriors. And happy Thanksgiving.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. You name it, we're available. My next guest, it's great to have her back, Jannelle Moore. You can follow her on Twitter at Jannelle12. Jannelle, how are you doing tonight? And give us your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors thumping the number 2 defense in the NBA, the LA Clippers.
I'm doing fine tonight, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Anytime.
And my immediate thoughts is that the Warriors look like themselves. Yeah, I know that Paul George and Kawhi were out, and the Warriors were supposed to do this. They were supposed to thump them. But it was good that they looked like themselves, and it was good that they didn't play down to their opponent.
Yes, I wholeheartly agree. So my first question to you, Jannelle, and again, I don't. So are you? So and just to rehash what you do, you're an analyst for the San Jose Mercury News. Although at the moment, like I guess you're in a downtime.
I'm in limbo. I'm in downtime, and as my editor would say, I'm in the moment. Whatever that moment is, I don't know, but in the meantime, all I can do is control what I can control, and that is to be the best analyst I could be and to be a better writer and just keep it moving.
Right. So let's say you were, and hopefully we'll see your content again soon. And I understand the news business, certain organizations, it's hard to get money these days, especially for newspapers, but hopefully they'll you'll get back at it soon because I love your work. If your editor, let's say, came to you and said, Jannelle, I want you to write a story on why the Warriors are so damn good at home, where they're now 8-1 on the year. They have a 7-game home winning streak, but they're just abysmal on the road, where they literally only have 1 win for the entire season. Anybody who watches the Warriors knows how bad they've been. Why do you think they're so good at home and just so god-awful on the road?
You got to think about this 2 timeline thing when it comes to that. The vets know that it's easier to win on the road easier to win at home versus the road.
Mm-hmm.
But the kids, well, that's another story right there. And I think that's a byproduct of merging these 2 timelines.
Right, but we're not really seeing the kids as much as at least I want. Like when the Warriors play on the road, you're still seeing JaMychal Green. You're seeing the veterans play way more minutes than I think they should. Like mostly it's Dante DiVincenzo, although he was hurt for that 0-5 road trip, which tanked their record overall. Until recently, we were seeing a lot of Ty Jerome, Anthony Lamb. The bench has been weird this year. There's been a lot of like DNPs for Moses Moody. Mm-hmm. So like, do you think it's just that? Do you think it's just like when it's on the road, like all these role players and these youngsters just don't have that comfort of home, like the fans rooting for it and all that?
Exactly. Okay. It's the comfort of home. as the familiarity of home. And sometimes in the road, it's easy for a younger player to get into their head a bit and, really mess up some stuff. And I think that's some of the issue right there.
Yeah, no, wholeheartedly. Speaking of the two timelines, there's been this narrative this season about the Golden State Warriors. And this, by the way, is our last show for the week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone watching and listening to this. We'll be back at it Monday of next week. It's time for some vacay, folks. But one thing I've realized, Jannelle, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, or maybe you'd wholeheartedly disagree with me, but I'd love your response to my take here, which is that the narrative for the Warriors this season has been the veterans versus the youngsters, right? The two timeline thing where you have one group of players who have been there and done that better than just about anyone in the history of this beautiful game. And then you have this other group of players who are young, who are inexperienced. They were on the team last year, so they do have championship experience, but they weren't exactly like vitally important pieces of that team either. They're role players. I actually don't see it that way. And it's taken me up to literally game 19 of the regular season to kind of come to this realization, which is that I don't think necessarily this is a two timeline issue for the Warriors as much as it is a front office / ownership versus Kerr issue. And what I mean by that is that this entire season for me has been nonsensical in the sense that the Warriors decided not to bring Gary Payne II back. They decided not to bring Otto Porter Jr. back. And when I found out what the actual contract was that Otto Porter Jr. got from Toronto, that kind of upset me because it was 2 years, $12 million. I know there's taxes and whatnot, but still the Warriors could have afforded that. That's ridiculous. Bjelica decides to leave. There's nothing the Warriors can do about that, but he was important last year. Andre Iguodala is washed. I don't know what else you could say. We haven't seen him for a minute all season. So the Warriors front office decided we have these three shiny toys, AKA the lottery picks, right? And we want to see them play. And these are high picks with a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism, a lot of potential. It's time for them to join the party in year 2. And Kerr doesn't agree with that. Kerr does not like that. So Kerr, has decided, no, I'm not going to go along with this. I'd rather play these two-way players that I just found last minute over these three youngsters. And as a result of that, and whether Kerr is being stubborn in his attitude toward the youngsters, whether he's just flat out wrong in his belief that they don't belong on the court, or maybe there's something bigger at play here. I don't know. But I see ultimately a conflict between the ownership, Lacob, Myers, etc., in terms of, again, they have these three shiny draft picks. I love them. Wiseman, we could debate. He's, I think, fallen out of the three furthest out of graces, but certainly Kuminga and Moody, I love. Moses Moody in the preseason was the 6th man on this team. Now we only see him in garbage time or he DNPs. That's how I'm seeing this play out now. And there's this conflict, and I don't think the Warriors are going to be a world championship team until both sides come to the same page. And whether that means either Kerr finally starts playing these youngsters a lot of minutes, meaningful minutes, or the front office makes trades and acquisitions to give Kerr the veterans he wants. What is your thoughts on that take I just gave you?
I'm inclined to agree with that. And I like to offer some pushback on, the GP2 and the Otto. I think Otto was going to leave anyway, because the reason why he signed with Toronto is because his wife is from there and they lived there. And I don't think there was anything else that, the Warriors could have done. I think his mind was already made up. So, you can't fault him for that. You also can't fault GP2 for securing. But what I do fault the Warriors is in, giving him that extra. But, on the other hand, he has yet to play a game.
True.
So
that is true.
So that's water under the bridge. But as far as what you said about this is a ownership issue and a Kerr issue and a player issue, I wholeheartedly agree. Because the owners, and I'm not just trashing Lacob and all of them, but owners, those type of cats have egos. Those picks were their babies. They didn't draft Steph or Clay or none of that. They want to forge their own, contribution to the dynasty.
Right.
And they also don't want to lose post-Steph. And I get that. But what they don't understand is you have to have the right personnel.
Mm-hmm.
They want to try to follow the path of the Spurs. But the thing is, when the Spurs traded for Kawhi during draft night, Kawhi was, I wouldn't say a finished product, but he came in, he could contribute, and the guidance of Popovich really helped him refine the skills that he already had. Whereas someone like Wiseman that hasn't really played anything, not much at college, high school, or what have you, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And plus, bigs, for whatever reason, have a slower time developing versus guards or wing players. And also with Kuminga, he's coming from G League Ignite.
Right.
And I have always wondered, is the Ignite showcasing these guys only or developing them? It seems like they are showcasing these guys versus developing them more. That's me though. That's how I feel about it. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll admit that.
Well, no. There's no way to really know that for sure, but that's a fascinating point. I do want to ask you, because I feel like you're an expert in a lot of fields, but you've actually written some great investigative pieces on the G League. What is your thoughts on the G League Unite and this overall setup where players are skipping college? They do the 1-year thing like Kuminga did for the G League. Like, is the developmental system the same to you, or is one side beneficial to the other? What are your thoughts on that?
Now, what was that?
Like, in other words, like, is if a player coming out of high school, are they better off going through college for a year, or are they better off going to the G League?
I think that college is the move.
Okay.
And people might not agree with that, but hey, you can hit me up in my DMs or whatever, or better yet, my Cash App, because I don't get paid to argue.
And you can, and those DMs are at Jannelle12 on Twitter. Jannelle, but for the sake of argument, like why would you say college is better than?
Because in college, I don't know. I mean, back in the day, I think coaches took their time with their players. You know what I mean? And yes. I think a lot of these coaches still take their time with their players. And, that matters. And you have to think about it like this: as a player, whatever level you're at, you have to evolve with it. You have to adapt. If you were the man in high school, you get to a big D1 program, you'll have to adapt your game to that program. If you're going to the draft, you have to adapt to that program. And there are some coaches that's former NBA players. I mean, you still got that development, and I think they have more of an insight. And again, the premise of the G League Ignite seems great. I mean, you're skipping college and you're thinking that you're getting some NBA experience on and off the court. And you might well get that, but it just seems to me that the Ignite is more or less like a showcase. Look at the games that Ignite had against Wimbledon, Victor. It seems more like a showcase, more showcasing. We don't know what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yep.
And they got the people in place. I mean, I think Brian Shaw's the coach.
Yes, correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And there's got to be more behind the scenes, but it's like we know of them, but we don't really know for sure. And it just seems like it's showcasing. Versus,
I agree.
We don't see no development really.
Yeah, I don't know a damn thing that's going on with G League. I have no clue. So I'm with you. I totally follow with you on that. We'll have more in just a minute. First, I got to give some love to Turo, an official sponsor of Locked On Warriors. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just needing to get from point A to point B, right? Just a simple ride. You could test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits in your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. You can follow Jannelle Moore on Twitter at Jannelle12. Let's talk about the way the rotations have been going lately with the Golden State Warriors. I love to pick your brain. Look, it's hard to make the argument that I'm going to make tonight because the Warriors won 124-107. They beat a Clippers team that entered tonight's game number 2 in defensive efficiency, and their offense has not been an issue this whole year. And tonight they showed that yet again. But I don't like, and it's really like, it's just something that's really like eating on my craw at this point. I don't like Moses Moody getting DNPs or only coming into the game in garbage time. I don't like Jonathan Kuminga getting 7 less minutes in a game than Anthony Lamb, who actually had a solid night, but he's inconsistent. Like, he had a great night tonight. He scored 7 points, grabbed 7 rebounds, plus 14 in the plus minus, hit the 1 3-point attempt he threw up. I think the most obvious memory of tonight's game was his give and go to Stephen Curry, where he set Curry up for that 3-pointer and basically screened out the defender in the process. But previously, the last 2 games, he had a combined total of 2 points. He was a defensive liability. At 6'5", opposing players are routinely posting up and shooting right over him because he just can't block them. And again, for the big picture, I don't think the Golden State Warriors are going to repeat as world champions if you don't have at least 2 of the 3 youngsters, these lottery picks, referring to Kuminga, Moody, and Wiseman, who's in the G League right now, ready to go to give you significant minutes in the postseason. And I say that largely because they're athletic specimens. They have talent. There's a reason why they were lottery picks. So even though the Warriors won tonight, and they improved their record to 9-10 on the year, they're 1 game below 500. I still don't like the fact that Kuminga got 7 less minutes than Lamb. I don't like the fact that Moody only got 5 minutes. What are your thoughts on me being unhappy with the fact that win or lose, I don't want Anthony Lamb or anyone else, nothing against Lamb, I just don't want anyone else cutting into the minutes that these young players need for development? Your thoughts?
I agree. And that reverts back to this whole 2 timeline issue. It's a byproduct of that. And I believe that the Warriors, Kerr, Makeup, they all have to come to a compromise here.
Yeah.
They have to me, they have to pick at least 2 of these kids and really invest in them. You can't give that same energy to 6. There's 6 of these kids on the roster. And that just goes into opposite direction. Mm-hmm. You know, it goes to one extreme to another. Last year's team had a nice balance of vets and kids. This year's team don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think that they should invest in Moody because he is the most ready out of any of them.
I agree.
Yeah, he went to college, but hey,
I agree.
One and done and one and none is it can really water down the game and develop these types of situations for other teams. But I digress.
Oh no, and your digression, by the way, wait until these high school players start coming into the league again. I do not support that at all. Like, we went through this experiment once. For every Kobe or KG or T-Mac, there's 10 players that you never hear from again, or 20 sometimes.
Exactly.
I'm not a fan of this 18-year-olds coming into the game thing. They're not ready for it. Even the one and done thing kind of turns me off, but I agree with your digression. We saw something tonight, and we've seen this now for a couple of games where Kerr is playing Draymond Green with the second unit. So far, so good. Your thoughts on this tweak to the rotation where, like, for example, tonight we saw Draymond on the court. I think it was with Lamb, Kuminga, DiVincenzo, and Poole. And I think they did okay. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good look, and I think it makes sense.
Same.
I think it makes sense for not only Draymond, but other vets to mix it up with the kids because of stability. These kids need stability out here. If they're playing around each other, it's very unstable because they're in over the heads. They're all hyped, but Draymond is stabilizing on both ends, offensively with his facilitating and his auxiliary scoring, and defensively, even though he may have lost a step or slipping a little bit. If there's some slippage going on, he's still the best defender on the team.
Yeah.
And he could stabilize him in that way. I think that is a good move. And I like to see it with like Utah on Friday. And, these teams coming up, Dallas. I like to see it with those. And I'm sure that their rosters are, fully healthy.
What are you envisioning? But that is a crazy game. We're not gonna have another show until Monday, November 28th, because of the Thanksgiving holidays. At least I need a vacation. So Friday night they're gonna host the Utah Jazz. What do you think's gonna happen in the game? And have you analyzed the Jazz closely enough to offer an educated opinion on them? I haven't researched them that much. What are your thoughts? What do you see happening in that Friday game? And
I think it's going to be a good and competitive game. And, people assume that they were going to tank, since Mitchell and Gobert left. But the guys that they do have, they're not flunkies on the floor. They're not scrubs.
Right.
They're going to get out here and they're going to compete. So, even though their start is surprising, but when you look at the players, they're not really bad players,
Agreed. I do know. Yes.
So I'm looking for a competitive game, and it is important for the Warriors not to play down to them and to really keep that level of aggression and energy high, just like what they did tonight. Crisp ball movement, player movement, and I love the energy on defense tonight also. They need to keep that for these few games as well, and just continue to build on these good habits.
Yeah.
I like what they did in the zone tonight.
It worked tonight. It did. It's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work against the really elite teams, but it worked tonight. There's no doubt about that. And it's great. Like, I feel like the Jazz fleeced the Timberwolves in that trade. I was saying this since the offseason when that trade happened. I couldn't believe how many people actually thought the Timberwolves were going to be a better team with Rudy Gobert. I was laughing my ass off at that, because the Jazz this offseason, you look at the players they got. Jared Vanderbilt is a solid dude. And that was part of what they got back. Colin Sexton, who they acquired in that sign and trade, solid player. Kelly Olynyk, solid player. I think they just got him as a free agent. I can't remember how they got him exactly.
Laurie is a solid player.
Yeah, Markkanen. Absolutely. And Taylor Horton-Tucker, who was, 1 minute the Lakers valued him so much they refused to trade him. Next minute they give him away for Patrick Beverley. He's actually a great role player for him. Mike Conley's a legitimate veteran. Jordan Clarkson. When that guy turns it on, there's no stopping him. Malik Beasley is even a terrific shooting guard for this team. I look at this roster and they're good. They're good. It's crazy. And they have their stockpile of draft picks. I've always been a Danny Ainge fan, just in the sense of his aggressiveness. Like, I just love that if he sees a team needs to make changes, he doesn't sit there and just wait. Like, he'll just flip a switch immediately. So When we come back, I'm going to ask you about James Wiseman, because a lot of people are starting to come to the realization that maybe if there's going to be a piece that's going to be traded for this team this year, it's probably going to be him. Maybe you disagree with that. We'll find out in just a minute. I would love to get your thoughts on that. First, BetOnline. Talk about a longtime sponsor of this program, and more specifically, BetOnline.net, who is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, analytics. Look, Thanksgiving is tomorrow or today, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. There's a lot of football action. You want to get some information. You want to get some insights, get all the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league. Yes, you degenerates, you can bet on the Santa Cruz Warriors. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, they got those covered as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Jannelle Moore, you can follow her on Twitter at Jannelle12, an analyst for the San Jose Mercury News, and so much more. What are your thoughts on James Wiseman? Should they trade him? Is it too soon to make a judgment like that? And if you think they should trade him, any ideas for who? Have you delved that deep into it? Your thoughts, Jannelle?
I think at this point, I think it's better for him to be traded, yes, because they're trying to make him fit.
Yeah.
And he just don't fit. And that's not to say that he will be a bad player for the rest of his career. It's just that the situation with him being in Golden State was wrong. And I was one of the people that say, well, they should pick Wiseman. I was wrong, damn it.
Well, Jannelle, a lot of people were wrong. A lot of people were wrong because, and let me know if you agree with me or not. I think the Warriors were incredibly unlucky to get a number 2 pick of all years. I mean, you look at how deep these drafts have been over the last 10 plus years. For them to get the number 2 pick in the 2020 draft was just bad luck, because that was a horrible draft. I mean, let's say you can go back in time and the Warriors can redo it. Who do you draft instead? I mean, are you drafting Halliburton at number 2? Not to mention, he wouldn't really fit on this team with Curry and Poole. I don't know if Ball fits. Like who would you draft instead if you had to go back in time? What do you think?
Halliburton isn't really a bad selection in hindsight.
True.
And who knows, he could have probably outplayed Poole.
Yes.
I mean, really think about it. I mean, he's having a great year, and he wasn't really bad in Sacramento either.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. It's just for the number 2 pick, it just would have been weird. You know what I'm saying? Like if the Warriors had done that, a lot of people would be kind of scratching their heads, right? Their eyebrows raised over that. But then
again, they probably wouldn't scratch their heads, because think about it. The Warriors really never had a true big like Wiseman. And I think that's where they got caught up. And I think that's where even I got caught up.
Yeah.
Wanting to see what that looks like. But, developing bigs takes time, especially right now when this league it is a guard and wing driven league.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know. Yeah, no, I do. So like, who would you trade him for? The only 2 names I've heard so far in a hypothetical James Wiseman trade, because he makes 10 million this year. I think he's going to make 12 million next year, and year 4 is already guaranteed. The only 2 names I've heard so far, and I think the salaries do match, don't quote me on this, but Miles Turner of the Pacers. And that's a trade that the Pacers probably would consider, just because they're in a better position to develop a player like James Wiseman. They have more patience and time to do so. They're in a rebuilding process. And then the Spurs and Podol is the other player I've heard, which, I wouldn't mind it. Neither of those names excite me that much. Have you thought of any names, and what are those? How do you feel about those 2?
I feel good about those 2, and I even tweeted that to one of my followers.
Okay.
Podol or Turner, because again, it's all about the situation.
Yeah.
Indy can develop Wiseman properly. So can San Antonio.
Right.
Hell, even Charlotte. Charlotte needs a big, like yesterday.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Charlotte has a nasty habit, just like their NFL counterparts, drafting the same player over, over and over and over and over and over again. They have a bunch of wings, just like the having a bunch of DBs. I mean, it's kind of like the same situation. And the Warriors would benefit to having a solid wing that can provide offensively, but also being versatile on defense to switch. I heard PJ Washington being thrown around.
That's what I was thinking
one of
too.
the 50-11 wings that they got here 90 minutes away from me.
Yeah, I've seen that. You know a name that would excite me a little bit. I don't know if the salaries would match. So if you're the Warriors, you'd have to throw another name or two in there. But I know the Atlanta Hawks are shopping John Collins around. I really would not mind him being on the Warriors. I think he would be a fantastic fit. I don't know if the Hawks would consider that. Clint Capella is a veteran on the Hawks as well, but I don't know if I don't know. I guess I should just dedicate a whole show just to James Wiseman trade proposals, because that we could go down a massive rabbit hole there.
But I think that the Warriors need to fill that 15th roster spot.
Yes. Oh, I agree with you there. I totally agree with you.
And again, develop two of these kids. You know
wholeheartedly. You know what's crazy? I don't even want to.
Andre need to get off his butt and play.
I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, you're right. That's a wasted roster spot right there. You know what's weird, Jannelle?
But I get it though. You know, it's the UD effect, and he is there to give guidance.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good for him to instill guidance with his words, but a little bit of deed sometimes.
Yeah.
That's what. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, because he's not really out there much, but why not get out there?
You know, and I'm in a very small minority of people who will say what I'm about to say, which is that I think if the Warriors actually committed to playing James Wiseman, that he could still develop into something for this Warriors team. His rookie year was not awful, right? Like he averaged 21 minutes a game his rookie year. And in those 21 minutes, he put up 11.5 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, and he shot 52%. Those aren't bad numbers. I know his plus minus was bad. He was getting in foul trouble a lot. I don't remember his turnover numbers off the top of my head, but he showed his rookie year that he belongs in this game. And the difference between his rookie year and, say, this year is that his rookie year, Kerr was just kind of hands off, was like, go do your thing, young man. Learn by doing, learn from your mistakes. We'll be patient with you. This year, it's like, oh, you committed a turnover. You're off the court after a minute. You're not seeing another minute of this game, which is, and again, that Kerr's short leash is just, it's infuriating me. It's my patience is so thin with him in terms of his demeanor and action toward these young players. I really think if Wiseman was just given freedom to be himself, there's hope there for him to be a player. And another thing I saw in the preseason, which encouraged me quite a bit, was seeing Jordan Poole and James Wiseman and their chemistry. I saw a lot of pick and rolls. I saw a lot of lobs. Their timing was simpatico. And I was encouraged. And then all of a sudden the regular season starts and Kerr just goes from, playing these youngsters in all the preseason games and getting us excited to suddenly just, having no patience for him and just pulling them the moment they make any mistake, which is completely counterintuitive to developing a young player. A young player needs to play to improve. And it's just driving me crazy. I know I'm in the vast minority of people saying that, but I really do think that if they just gave Wiseman a shot. Like, let these youngsters learn by playing and not just being so like having the shortest leash imaginable. I that is very detrimental to me in terms of developing these youngsters. I don't know, Jannelle. Am I crazy? What do you think?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. But here's the thing: Wiseman has been given a more of a leash than any of those kids. I think it's because of his height.
Yeah.
If it was Kuminga size, I don't think he would have that leash. And also, you have to remember, it's not the fact that they are making the mistakes, it's the type of mistakes that they're making. That's the thing with Kerr. Kerr knows that these kids are gonna make mistakes, but the kind of mistakes that he thinks that they're making is what's getting them pulled.
Yeah.
And those kind of mistakes that have been the bane of the existence of the dynasty, getting caught slipping on defense. That's a no-no. And Wiseman have been caught slipping on defense. You can't do that with Kerr. Sure, to be honest, you can't really do that with Popovich either.
I also heard, so Wiseman's been in Santa Cruz now for, I think he's played 3 games there. His numbers are okay, but he's not impressing the way you would hope he would impress. Like, he's not out there dominating, for example. Like, he's putting up solid numbers. He's putting up 17 points per game, something like 12 rebounds.
And domination. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Shouldn't even be the goal. Remember, this is the progress of progression.
Right.
Real time. These kids are going to mess up. They're going to screw up, and being down in Santa Cruz will give Wiseman the freedom to play through his mistakes without judgment, without fear of getting pulled. And that should be his goal, to really screw up but understand why it's a screw up and to correct that.
Yeah.
He's not going to be fixed in 10 games.
No, I know. And ultimately, look, if they trade him, I will not be a voice of dissension against that. I understand that in all likelihood, that's the move they're going to have to make. And I also want to add too, I've heard sources from Santa Cruz tell me that his attitude has not been exemplary. That he's he doesn't take constructive feedback in a positive way. Sometimes he rolls his eyes. Sometimes he, he'll kind of shake off coaches or teammates trying to help him out. And I've heard those things from sources that I trust.
And here's a theory of mine, and I'm about to be on one here. These kids now, and I'm not just talking about the Warriors kids, I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
When they come to the league, they're built different. And I'm not talking about physically, and I'm not talking about skill-wise, I'm talking about their mindset. As they're entitled, they're closed-minded and mentally weak. And think about it. They go through the AAU circuit now. They got people kissing their butts at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And that's what they buy into. And they thinking that the road to the NBA or the road to D1 is smooth. There will be no adversity. They will dominate because that's what they have known. But again, you have to adapt at every level. And they fail to do that because they think that they have arrived because they got their parents, they got all these coaches kissing their butts. And for Wiseman, of all people, to be rolling his eyes, he did that at Steph. And to still have that same attitude, he will never get anywhere. You always have to have an open mind. You never stop learning. That's what separates good players from the greats. It even separates flunkies on the floor and serviceable role players.
And you're right, he did do that to Steph in a regular season game this year. And And I even had I had Drew Hill. He's a reporter for that. I believe it's the Daily Memphian. And he was on this show last year, and Drew said that he actually covered Wiseman in high school, and that Wiseman back then had a diva-like attitude. Yeah, you know what? I take back what I said earlier about being in the vocal minority. If they trade him, they trade him. I literally talked myself out of like thinking he's gonna.
And that won't be and he won't be a fit cultural wise
He won't.
if he's doing that.
No, he's probably you're right. Yeah, they should trade him. I think that's I mean, everyone's saying that. Like everyone. I haven't I have not talked to anyone left, except for maybe pretty much everyone's saying it's time to trade him. So I support it. Is there anything we haven't covered, Jannelle, as we wrap the show up? Is there anything anything on your mind that you want to let loose? The floor is yours if you do.
I think I said all I needed to say about this 2 timeline thing, and I think I will go back to that again. The Warriors have a decision to make, and I don't think it's fair to the core. The core, Steph, Clay, Draymond, they want to win.
Yeah,
they want to win as many rings as they can before they dip out, and they earned that right.
Hell yeah!
And for them, for the front office to take that away because they pick these babies and they want to be like the Spurs, and they have to realize what works for San Antonio don't work for Golden State.
Damn right.
And right now, they are the defending champions. They have earned that right to win.
Yep.
You can't win and develop these kids at the same time. You can, but you have to pick 2. And those
Kuminga and Moody
are as Kuminga and Moody.
Yeah, I like those 2.
I don't care what happened to the rest of them. Ship Wiseman's butt on. I don't care where you ship them. Ship them somewhere, but don't ship them for Lent.
I'm with you. I'll tell you what, folks, on Monday's show,
but out of here.
On Monday's show, I will dedicate at least a segment to potential James Wiseman trade possibilities. I'll get the trade machine out so we can match up some salaries. I'll actually do some research on this. I'm going to visit my dad in Reno for Thanksgiving, leaving tomorrow morning. And while I'm there, I will do some research on who is out there the Warriors can make a trade for. Jannelle, thank you. It's always a pleasure. Hope to see your work in the Merc soon. Hope they free up some cash. They can pay you. I love your work. You can follow Jannelle Moore on Twitter at Jannelle12. Anything we forget? Anything you want to promote before we call it a wrap?
No, not really. But if you're into the NFL at all, I am writing about the Panthers. Yeah, okay. I know this is a Bay Area deal. Niners. I actually grew up a Jerry Rice fan, but that's another show for another day. But yeah, you want to follow my work? Check me out in football for the time being. But I hope to be writing about basketball soon. Love it. I hope so too. And again, just keep track, everyone. Just keep track of Jannelle's work on Twitter at Jannelle12. And see you again soon, Jannelle. It was a pleasure. Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Jannelle. Take care, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.